More than 17,000 foreign fighters fought in the war in Ukraine. Majority of them were Russians, but there were also significant mobilizations in different Western European countries. Today, we will take a closer look at two such mobilizations, the French and the Swedish. These are two significant Western European mobilizations. One for the Ukrainian side, the Swedish, the other for the so-called separatists, the French, encompassing up to 50 fighters, predominantly from the extreme right-wing or nationalist scenes, in both France and Sweden. Additionally, there were other Frenchmen and Swedes who went to Ukraine. Activists, well-wishers, supporters, trainers. In total, between 100 and 200 were somehow involved in the war in Ukraine. Who were they? In the French case, they were coming from a nationalist, traditionally anti-communist, but also anti-US and anti-transatlantic milieu, which turns pro-Russian only in the 21st century. There were up to 30 fighters and numerous individuals in humanitarian and observer roles, and many visitors, including musicians. In the Swedish case, they were coming from a nationalist, traditionally anti-Russian milieu, which only turns pro-Russian from 2015 onwards, also because of the war in Ukraine. There were 10-20 fighters and up to 50 people in other roles, including an MMA coach. Why did they go there? The French, they were coming from nationalist backgrounds. They belonged to organizations such as Jeunesse Identitaire, Jeunesse Nationaliste, Ligne Noire, Troisième Voie. One stood as a candidate in elections for Parti de la France. Significant members of the French contingent are former soldiers, and the front organization is called Unité Continentale, Continental Unity, a name given in recognition of the whole of Europe, including Russia. This Europe is to oppose the globalist United States and Ukraine, which in their view is also pro-American. Consequently, they felt they had to support the pro-Russian separatists. The Swedes, they were coming from nationalist, if not neo-Nazi backgrounds, from the Party of the Swedes, which argued that people belonging to Western genetic and cultural heritage can only be Swedish citizens. One even stood as a candidate for this party in elections. Their main motivation: we stop Russia there, so they don't come to us. Which unit did they join? The French wanted their own unit, an international brigade, and for a while such a unit existed, and also included Serb and Brazilian volunteers. In the end, however, they were dispersed among different units. The Swedes, majority joined the Azov battalion, some were also in the Eider battalion. How did they get there? Amongst the French, the key figure is Victor Lenta. Him and the first group get to Donetsk in the summer of 2014 after a rather complicated journey via Budapest, Moscow, Rostov, then Kiev, and finally through the front line to Donetsk. Others arrive via Moscow, Rostov, Donetsk pipeline. Amongst the Swedes, the central figure is Mikael Skild. He knows people in the Ukrainian nationalist party Svoboda and arrives in Kiev in the winter of 2014. He sets up a Facebook page, Swedish Volunteers for Ukraine, and pulls others in. Some had been his colleagues from before the war. How did they do? This seems like the drama contingent, the French. There are splits, acrimony, alleged embezzlement of funds, alleged abandonment of posts. Some say the recruited fighters were even errors in casting. Some were wounded, and generally the French were appalled by the disorganization and chaos of the separatist militias. The Swedes, on the other hand, they say they came to work in a professional unit. This seems like a no-drama contingent. They trained others, fought, one died in a car accident. Some stayed in Ukraine, but majority left. What happens now? To quote one Swedish fighter, majority of the Swedes are doing okay. They're not private military contractors as some wish to become, but they are not homeless either. At the same time, most French keep their heads down. Some try being military contractors, others tried their luck in Iraqi Kurdistan. Some are now stars of the nationalist milieu in France, and some resurface at Yellow Vest protest in 2019. Some French are still there in Donetsk. The story is therefore not over. To find out more, follow www.counterextremism.com, @fightextremism, and @Kacper Rekawek.